This is the Chrome Dinosaur game. If the internet goes out, you can play it on Google Chrome. It's a really cool game, and I think it deserves to be more than just something you play when the internet goes down. I want to be able to play it whenever I want, wherever I want, and definitely not stuck in a browser tab. So in this video, I'm gonna make my own physical version of the game in 3 steps, and I will also get one of my friends' reaction. The first step is to know what parts we need for the project and design the circuit. These are all the components I used for this project. And this is how everything connects together. Now, with all the components ready and the circuit design figured out, we put everything together on a breadboard and move on to step 2, programming the game. Here I have to use AI because I don't know how to code. I use Claude and I have wrote a prompt that you can see and use. And remember, we have to tell Claude everything about the project, what parts we are using, with the exact name and part numbers, or even sending the data sheet. We also have to tell it about every pin-to-pin connection in the circuit so we can write a good code. Alright, everything is set up. Let's open Claude AI and ask it to write the code for us. Alright, this is simple. We copy and paste the prompt into Claude AI and wait for a solid 7 minutes. And here's the code. Wait for it to complete. Copy the code, go over to Atmos Studio, paste it, debug the code, and we flash the hex file into the hardware, which is Atmega 328p, and wait for it until it's done. And this is the game we got. Okay, this is not what I wanted. The first problem is the cactus and dinosaur and the whole graphic of the game. Second, the game is not working and this dinosaur thing does not jump enough to go over the cactus. We have to fix that. So I wrote another prompt and told AI to fix this bug. Let's see what happens.
What the fuck is this? Yeah, it's jumping, but exactly the same problems. Not jumping high enough to go over the cactus. And plus this shit, what is this? It's more like a spider than fucking dinosaur. Alright, the game got worse. Congratulations.
So this was the second version of the game, which is worse than version 1, by the way. And we've got so many problems to fix. First is the graphic of the game. The dinosaur and the cactuses don't look the way they should. Second, the dinosaur does not jump high enough to go over cactuses. That's a problem. And the third one is the frame rate, which is so low. So we have got graphic problems, logic problems, and hardware problems. Now, for the last time, I'm gonna ask AI to see if it can fix these issues, and let's see the result.
It says still a spider. I'm pretty sure it is. Oh, we got over the small cactus. This is fire. Oh, and their score goes up. That's crazy. And if you see previous version, they then had this C in a score. We fixed that and we scored 10 points. That's some good news.
In version 4, I tried not to use AI because it doesn't do shit. So I designed the dinosaur myself and flashed it. But it didn't look the way I designed it.
Kind of.
I thought maybe I have to swap the dimensions of the dinosaur. So I opened the code and did that. As you can see, this was the result and it got better, but it still was not the way I wanted. So again, I designed the dinosaur in 2 frames so we can have a running animation. Then I drew the cacti and flashed the code I got from Claude. And this time, everything worked perfectly.
Alright, let's see. This is good. This is fucking good.
I also found a part of the code responsible for the physics of the game and tweaked gravity and jump velocity, and I got this.
Alright, it's done. Let's see if... Oh, that's cool. That's some cool shit. No, it's vanishing to the sky. No, we have to fine tune that. That's cool.
After tweaking it a little bit more, we got this, which is perfect. Now our game logic and graphics are good, but FPS is still a bit low, which I fixed it by adding one more component that I'll show you in a minute. That being said, I think the game is now complete and we go for the last step, which is building the metal frame. I started by sketching out the frame on paper to figure out the shape and dimensions. I wanted everything to be really precise, so it took me a little while to get it right. Then bending the wires and solder them together piece by piece. At first the solder just wouldn't stick to the frame. It would turn into a little ball and fall off. I tried a few different methods, but none of them helped. Then I used the different flux I had, and finally it worked. Slowly, the front of the frame started to take shape. Next, I opened up the battery casing and tested it to make sure everything was working properly. Then I made two small rings to hold the battery in place. From there, I started putting everything together, and little by little, we ended up with this basic chassis. Now it's time to start mounting components onto it. First, we have this on and off switch, so I made a little bed for it and soldered it in place. Next up is the Type-C charging module. I glued it to the back of the battery and soldered the brass wire. Then I moved to the next wire and accidentally shorted the battery. And this happened. But luckily, I managed to solder it in place. After that, it was time to mount the OLED display, and this is where I made probably the worst mistake that I could have made. This was the display before soldering, and this is after. If you look closely, you can see that I've actually burnt the top of the display with my soldering iron. I messed up, and I messed up bad. At this point, I was thinking, should I even continue the project? Does this display still work? Or should I order another one? But that would take about 10 days to arrive. And I really didn't want to wait that long. So I decided to keep going with this one and leave the damage there as a little reminder of how bad I am at soldering. So I continued connecting everything. I mounted this push button so our dinosaur can jump. If you're wondering, for the connections, we bend the brass wire, measure it, and bend it again. Then measure it again. Then we mark where the next bend needs to go. Make the bend and repeat the process one more time. After the final bend, we have a brass wire connection that fits perfectly into place. Then we connect the on and off switch to the circuit. Alright, this is the part that is going to help us with the FPS. A 16 MHz crystal. We connect it to the pin 9 and 10 of the microcontroller. And then connect both pins to the ground through two 22 picofarad capacitors. And look at this. I'm soldering one connection to the ground with the tip of the iron, while soldering the other end using the body of the iron. This is a very rare soldering technique that lets you solder 2 points at the same time. And by the way, this is the exact same technique that burnt my display earlier. Then I soldered the VCC connection, but I made a small mistake here that was going to cause a huge problem later. Finally, I added a pull-down resistor for the push button, and we are done soldering. Let's put the chip into the socket and see if everything works. We don't need that anymore. Alright, this is what the back looks like, and now if we turn it on, nothing. Then I noticed this. I thought maybe the crystal pins weren't properly connected to the ground. So I touched them, and suddenly we can see the Dino. But it doesn't jump. I tried it one more time and it's working. So I thought let's connect those pins to the ground again. But that wasn't actually the problem. This was. If you remember, when I was soldering the VCC connection, I made the mistake of leaving no space between these two wires. They were touching each other, causing the display to freeze. But when I accidentally soldered the ground connection, these two wires got separated, and suddenly the whole thing started working.
Oh yeah, it's working.
And you know what they say? If it works, don't touch it. So finally, our game gadget is complete, and this is the result. Now, let's unbox it and then show it to my friend.
همیشه اوستا تو گیمری؟ اوه موتور خاموش
بازی پشمون
بلند
پشمون
نظرت یا چه؟
عالی
اگم خاموش روشن کن خب آقا 3 تا شانس تا بدیدم چند تا امتیاز بگیریم از صفر شروع کن از صفر
اصلا
خب الان ناد نمه شما
ما امتیاز بالا نازم
صفم سوزونده با چه با هویه
ولی رقمش معلومه چند تایی
جا به جا خواهد بود صوته نوشتی که ده امتیاز چند داری به نظرت؟ بالای 20؟
آه بابا بالا 20 چه